key properties that you might want to put in your notebooks when we are dealing with adding integers. And the first one we want to talk about is the identity property of addition. The sum of a number and its additive identity, and the additive identity is always 0, is the number. So what I'm saying is, if I take 3 plus 0, I'm going to always get 3. If I take a negative 3 plus 0, I'm going to always get a negative 3. So anytime you add the identity, the additive identity, which is 0, to a number, you always get that particular number. And another property we want to look at is the inverse property of addition. And the sum of a number and its additive inverse, or opposite, another word for opposite is the additive inverse, is always 0. Example, 5 plus a negative 5 is 0. 7 plus a negative 7 is 0. 3 plus a negative 3 is 0. Okay, so the additive identity is always 0. When you add it to a number, it's always going to give you that number. Additive inverse, or the inverse property of addition, say if you add the additive inverse or opposite of a number, you're going to always get 0. Okay, so right now, let's see, can we use these properties by looking at an example. And what we want, this example, we're adding 2 or more integers. Okay, so let's take a look at finding a sum, and we want to use the order of operation with this particular problem. So we'll have in parentheses, go back in. So we'll have in parentheses negative 7 plus 7 plus a negative 8 plus a negative 5. Okay, now in order for us to solve this expression, we can see already that we have additive inverse with 7 and plus 7. So that we can solve this using the additive inverse property of addition. So that's going to be 0 plus a negative 8 plus a negative 5. And what we did again is we use the additive inverse, okay, to solve this for this particular step. So this is the inverse property of addition. Okay, so we use the inverse property of addition here with a negative 7 and 7. Okay, so let's move on a little further. Now we're dealing with 0 plus a negative 8 plus a negative 5. So we can drop the 0 and make this a negative 8 plus a negative 5. It's a little more conducive to the eyes. Okay, plus a negative 5. And we use this, the identity property, by dropping the 0. Anytime we add 0 to any number, is always going to be itself. So adding 0 to a negative 8 will always give us a negative 8. So we use the identity property of addition. Okay, I identity property of addition. So now we're left with, as we can see, a -5 plus a -8. So now we'll go back to our rules of integers. We have the same signs, so we'll just add 8 plus 5, which is going to give us 13, but the rules say if the signs are the same, we add the absolute value and use a common sign, and that's going to be a -13. And here we use the same sign rule for integers. So that's going to be same sign so the sum has common sign. Okay, so it's not that difficult, especially if we utilize these rules and use these key concepts from both adding integers to these addition properties. Even working with these 2 or 3 numbers should not be that difficult for us. Okay, let me give you a problem that I want you to work. So let's say we have a -20 plus a -15. Also, I want you to work $300 plus 111 plus a -44 plus a -256. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, work these 2 problems, work problems 1 and problems 2, come back and see if your answer correlates with mine. See you soon. Okay, now that you're back, let's take a look at the first problem. -20 plus a -15. Okay, our rules, our property rules, really doesn't fall in this particular problem. What we do see is same sign. We're adding the same sign. So if we're adding the same sign, we just need to add the absolute value of 20 plus 15. Which is going to give us 35, and because they have common sign, we keep the sign, which is a -35. Okay, now let's take a look at the second. Well, we know that if we add 300 plus a -44, so let's just say we'll add 300 plus a -44, okay, that's going to give us a -256. And if we subtract the -256, we're going to have 0. So let's make sure that we understand what we're doing. We're taking 300 plus a -44. That's going to give us a positive 256. And if we add a positive 256, we're going to wind up with 0. And this is our inverse property of addition. So we'll wind up with 0. And if we add 0 plus 111, which is, of course, our identity property. Remember, if 0 plus anything, 0 identity or additive inverse, if we add additive identity, if we add 0 plus anything, it's going to give us 0. So 0 plus 111 is going to equal to 111. Okay. Now, if you work the problem, you could have easily, I wanted you to show so you could see what these properties look like. But if you went in and worked 300 plus 411, and you were able to get 411, and then subtract 300 from it, because you got 44 plus 256 give you plus a negative 300, and you came up with 111. That's all good. All right, but try to use these properties as you're working. It'll take some time to really get used to them, but try to use these properties as you're working, and everything will be okay. We'll come back in a minute, take a look at a real world situation, and see how well you do on that.